What's up everybody, welcome to HeroWatch, the series where each episode I analyze a different new hero candidate for the upcoming Overwatch 2. Today's candidate is the Omnic hacker LYNX. Possessing some acute technological skills and more wit and emotion than you might expect, LYNX actually presents some interesting possibilities when it comes to being a member of the playable Overwatch roster. This is Master Ian Gamer. Be sure to subscribe and hack that bell icon if you enjoy this video, and now let's get into it. Now, typically in these videos, I'd start off with the character's story appearances, but for LYNX, I'd like to first mention a bit of trivia about them, which is that they are a gender-neutral individual and thus go by the pronouns they and them. The reason I wanted to mention this first is to prevent any confusion as I talk about them over the course of this video, as I will be sticking to their canonical identifiers. But now let's dig into LYNX story. To date, LYNX has only made one appearance across all of Overwatch's story, and that was in the 2017 comic Searching. In it, they assist Zarya in her hunt for Sombra following the events of the Infiltration animated short. Evidently a resident of Numbani, LYNX had been tracking Sombra for some time prior to teaming up with Zarya. However, their data and knowledge of Sombra was incomplete, as they originally thought Sombra was a collective of hackers as opposed to just a singular person. Being a hacker themselves, LYNX has compiled a complex network of data to track Sombra and her activities. They use it to trace her back to Dorado, where the duo investigate further. When their initial lead with Lumerico's CEO turns out to be a dead end, Zarya suggests that the two of them perform a brute force door-to-door search to see if anyone else knows anything. Despite LYNX objection to this plan, Zarya persists with it, and ultimately they find a new lead. This then leads the two to a warehouse where Sombra is hiding out. After LYNX disables the security system, Sombra confronts them and engages in a fight with Zarya. After Zarya gains the upper hand, Sombra disables LYNX and reveals that she'd hacked them way back in Numbani at the very start of their search. With the warehouse primed to explode, Zarya lets Sombra slip away and carries the Omnic hacker out to safety just in time. Over the course of the comic, LYNX is consistently the target of Zarya's anti-Omnic prejudice, and they are shown to be regularly annoyed by, but tolerant of, her harsh words. However, even despite this prejudice, LYNX is shown to later feel sympathetic towards the hardships Zarya herself endured at the hands of fellow Omnics, even after she told them just how many of their kind she'd killed. Considering that in the Overwatch universe, anti-Omnic sentiments are far from unique to Zarya, it's likely that LYNX has endured such discrimination for much, if not all, of their life, but despite this, they themselves seem to have managed to resist developing any of their own counter-prejudice towards humans. In fact, they appear to have even developed some level of wit as a mechanism to deflect such intolerance, and LYNX seems to have no problem taking the high road and calling out Zarya on her behavior. Looking at LYNX visual design, they possess a relatively generic Omnic design akin to what we see with both Zenyatta and many other civilian Omnics. Their most outstanding visual feature is a pair of antennae on top of their head, which resemble ears and can move around to help emphasize LYNX mood. In addition to this, they wear an oversized turquoise hoodie, which feels more than fitting given their hacker lifestyle. They also bear 3 light dots on their head and are shown to use them to scan things and interact wirelessly with certain computers. Outside of these details, however, there unfortunately isn't much else to go on in terms of LYNX story presence. Considering their self-contained role within Searching, which was to serve as an impasse for Zarya and her anti-Omnic prejudice, there's really no story-based need or even suggestion for LYNX ever making another appearance. That, of course, doesn't mean they can't or won't appear again, though, and in fact, they do present some interesting potential going forward as both a story character and playable hero. As it stands, LYNX has connections to both Zarya and Sombra, and given the vast network of characters and places with which Sombra herself is connected, this could vicariously present a number of other interesting possibilities for LYNX. Additionally, with Overwatch's reformation in Overwatch 2, the organization is likely going to be looking to take in anyone who can help in their fight against Talon, and with LYNX having been shown to possess not only their own vast network of information relating to Sombra and Talon, but also an interest in hunting down Sombra herself, they seem like a prime candidate for induction into the new Overwatch Overwatch organization. It's also interesting to take note of the fact that Sombra evidently hacked LYNX 17 well before them and Zarya began their search. While they're shown to have recovered from the paralysis brought on by her hack, it's hard to imagine that LYNX 17 would be able to fully clear Sombra out of their systems, and therefore it seems more than plausible that she still has some sort of malware active within them. If this is the case, then this could potentially lead to some interesting developments later down the line. For example, now that LYNX 17 knows they've been compromised by Sombra, they might have to undergo some sort of ordeal in order to get her malware out. On its own, this could be a really interesting plotline, as it could easily entail LYNX 17 having to reset part of their systems, which could have devastating effects on their personality and/or the progress they've made in tracking Sombra herself. Alternatively, if LYNX 17 falsely assumes that they've cleared Sombra's malware out following the events of searching, then that could lead to some interesting potential if and when they do end up joining Overwatch. While Sombra more than likely already has bugs within the newly reformed organization, being able to track their activities through LYNX 17 could lead to a variety of outcomes. For example, Overwatch may grow suspicious of LYNX 17 without them even realizing that they've been hacked, or LYNX 17 could become something of a puppet for Sombra to carry out her own interests. Beyond just story ties, however, LYNX 17 also possesses some interesting gameplay possibilities. While we already have an offensive hacker hero in-game with Sombra herself, there are a number of other potential hack-based abilities LYNX 17 could have. For example, rather than hacking enemies to disable them, they could hack allies in order to provide friendly buffs. The potential here would be practically limitless. These buffs could apply to anything from damage output to move speed to ability cooldown lengths, just so long as they reasonably fit within the game's balance. A kit like this could work really well with LYNX 17 being a support hero, and speaking of which, we actually know through a dev Q&A that Sombra herself was originally a support hero while first being developed. For example, hack originally reduced enemy healing and damage output instead of disabling abilities. So based on these details revealed about her early iteration, it's possible that we could end up seeing some of these original support-oriented hacker mechanics manifest in a new hacker hero, being LYNX 17. But now that I've exhausted the limited amount of details we have regarding LYNX 17, let's move on to their hero candidate score. Boasting an interesting enough visual design, extensive hacking skills, and a willingness to, at least somewhat, engage in a fight, they have a decent number of pros going for them. However, with only a single appearance thus far where they served a self-contained story purpose, there's no strong indicator that they will ever be making any further appearances. This unfortunately places them rather low in relation to many other possible new hero candidates, many of whom already have far more established stories and connections. Therefore, I have to give LYNX 17 a 2 out of 5 on the scale of new hero probability. They offer some interesting potential, but nothing outstanding or quite unique enough to convince me that they have even so much as a decent chance of making it onto the playable roster. Personally, I'd love to get to see more of them, and it is technically still possible that they'll be playable, but I'm not really going to be getting my hopes up for them. And with that, thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit up that bell icon, and follow me on Twitter if you enjoyed this video and don't want to miss any of my future Overwatch content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible, and if you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. Today's comment question: what do you think about LYNX 17 possibly being a future Overwatch hero? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, this is Master EN Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.